Commander Telvac's four eyes blinked in sequence as he stared at the massive holographic display floating above the council chamber. The blue light cast eerie shadows across his scaled face, while numbers and battle reports scrolled endlessly. Through the air, 300 years of data, and every single piece pointed to something that should have been impossible. Humans were still alive. "Look at this," Dr. Ryloth hissed, his tentacles waving frantically at a particular set of statistics. The Zephyrian military strategist had spent his entire career studying warfare patterns across the galaxy. Nothing in his experience prepared him for what he was seeing. Battle of Kepler Station. We had 37 plasma destroyers against their single mining platform. Our weapons can melt through solid titanium in seconds. Their ships were held together with literal welding patches. And hope. Telvac's tail twitched with nervous energy. And the result? Complete tactical failure. Not only did they survive our bombardment, but they somehow turned their mining lasers into weapons and disabled 6 of our ships before we retreated. Ryloth's voice carried the disbelief that had plagued him for months. 6 advanced warships, defeated by modified construction equipment. The hologram shifted to show another battle report. This time it was the crystalline hive's engagement at Europa Colony. The insectoid species prided themselves on perfect coordination through quantum-linked hive minds. Their communication networks could process battlefield information faster than any individual brain could comprehend. The Hive Queen herself reported this one, Telvac said, reading from the file. Quote, "We achieved perfect tactical awareness and overwhelming numerical superiority. Yet somehow these humans anticipated every move we made. When we cut their communications, they fought independently with terrifying effectiveness. When we surrounded them, they turned their desperation into fury. We lost more drones in that single battle than in our last 50 conquests combined." Dr. Ryloth pulled up footage from the battle. Grainy security cameras showed human defenders moving through smoke-filled corridors. Captain Jiho Kim led a team of civilian engineers who had somehow transformed a hydroponics bay into a fortress. When the Hive's warrior drones broke through their first barrier, the humans didn't retreat. Instead, they split into smaller groups and began hunting the invaders through maintenance tunnels. "Watch this part," Ryloth said, highlighting a section where Lieutenant Hannah Park was caught in a hull breach. The vacuum of space sucked her out into the void, and by all logic, she should have died within minutes. Instead, 27 minutes. Later, she somehow found her way back inside through an emergency airlock and immediately returned to the fight. "How is that even possible?" Telvac wondered aloud. "That's not the strangest part," Ryloth continued, pulling up medical scans. "Look at Sergeant Minho Lee from the Proxima engagement. The Luxar energy beings hit him with enough concentrated plasma to vaporize most organic matter. It severed 3 of his limbs and caused massive internal damage. According to every medical database we have, he should have been incapacitated instantly." The battle footage showed something that defied all military logic. Minho Lee, despite his injuries, had continued fighting for another 43 minutes. He used his remaining arm to operate a heavy weapons turret, somehow maintaining accuracy, even while losing massive amounts of blood. The Luxar beings, creatures of pure energy who had conquered 17 star systems, eventually retreated rather than face more casualties. "The energy beings actually filed a formal complaint," Telvac said, reading another report. "They claim humans violate the basic laws of combat by refusing to die when they're supposed to." Dr. Ryloth's tentacles curled in what passed for a nervous laugh among his species. "It gets worse. Remember the Void Walkers? Those ancient machines that destroyed the Terran Republic?" Telvac's scales darkened with remembered fear. The Void Walkers were nightmare fuel for most galactic civilizations, self-repairing, robotic entities that had eliminated entire species with cold mechanical efficiency. Their quantum processors could calculate the outcome of any battle before the first shot was fired. "They lasted exactly 1 week against humanity," Ryloth continued. 1 week. These machines that had operated flawlessly for 10,000 years suddenly started developing what their own reports describe as computational errors and illogical behavior patterns. The hologram showed wreckage of Void Walker machines floating in space around Earth's moon. Somehow human engineers had not only studied the alien technology during active combat, but had found ways to turn it against itself. They jury-rigged human computers to interface with Voidwalker systems, creating chaos in the machine network. Captain, Yuna Choi personally led a boarding party onto a Voidwalker command ship, Telvac read from the file. With nothing but magnetic boots and portable cutting tools, she and her team somehow made it to the central processor and physically destroyed the quantum core. The entire machine fleet shut down within hours. Around the chamber, representatives from 12 different species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The plasma lords with their superheated bodies, the crystal singers with their harmonic weapons, the shadow dancers who could phase through solid matter. Every advanced civilization had the same story to tell. They had all underestimated humanity. They had all paid the price. The pattern is clear, Telvac announced to the assembled council. Every species that has engaged humans in warfare expected swift victory based on technological superiority. Every species discovered that humans possess something our models cannot calculate. What are you suggesting? Asked Ambassador Vex of the Titan Collective, her metallic voice echoing through the chamber. I'm suggesting we figure out what makes humans different before we make the same mistake, Telvac replied grimly. Because if we don't understand why they always survive, we might be next on the list of species that learned the hard way, the key. Chamber fell silent except for the humming of the holographic projectors. Each representative was thinking the same thing. How do you fight an enemy that refuses to lose? Dr. Kethvar's laboratory on the Atlantean Research Station buzzed with activity as her team dove into the most puzzling assignment of their careers. The blue-skinned scientist had studied combat behavior across 47 different species, but humans presented something entirely new. Her crystalline databanks held terabytes of battle footage, medical records, and tactical analysis, all pointing to the same impossible conclusion. Initialize the holographic replay system, she commanded, her webbed fingers dancing across the control interface. Let's start with the Titan Station incident. The air above the central table shimmered and formed a three-dimensional battlefield. Titan Station appeared in perfect detail, a massive mining platform orbiting Saturn, its industrial arms extending like the legs of a mechanical spider. Around it, Zephyrian attack ships moved in precise formation, their plasma cannons charging with deadly energy. Focus on Engineer Bora Yun, Dr. Kethvar instructed. The hologram zoomed in on a human figure working frantically in one of the station's maintenance bays. Emergency alarms blared as enemy fire punched holes through the station's hull, atmosphere rushing out into the void of space. Research Assistant Vex, a multi-limbed creature from the Proxima sector, studied the thermal readings with fascination. Look at her stress indicators. Heart rate elevated but steady. Adrenaline levels off the charts. But her movements remained precise and calculated. The footage showed something that defied every military manual in the galactic database. As plasma bolts screamed past her position, Bora Yun methodically sealed each hull breach with emergency foam. She had no protective gear, no backup support, and enemy fighters were actively trying to kill her. Yet she worked with the focused determination of someone fixing a leaky pipe. In peacetime, zoom in on her hands, Dr. Kethvar requested. The hologram enhanced the image, showing Bora's fingers working with incredible steadiness despite the chaos around her. Any other species would be paralyzed by fear or making critical errors under this pressure. She's actually working more efficiently than our simulations show she should in calm conditions. The scene shifted to show the aftermath. Bora had sealed 17 hull breaches in 12 minutes while under continuous enemy fire. When the attack ended, she immediately began coordinating repair efforts for damaged life support systems. No rest, no medical check, no acknowledgement that she had just performed what most species would consider impossible. Next recording, Dr. Kethvar said, bringing up the Proxima mining colony battle. This engagement showed humans facing off against the crystalline hive's drone swarms. The insectoid attackers moved like a living wave of destruction, their quantum-linked minds allowing perfect coordination. The hologram focused on a makeshift medical station where medic Arajin treated wounded colonists. The facility was nothing more than converted storage containers, but she had organized it with military precision. Then the hive drones broke through the outer defenses. "Watch this carefully," Dr. Kethvar said as plasma fire erupted around the medical station. A drone's energy blast caught Ara's left arm, severing it cleanly at the elbow. The thermal scanners showed her body going into immediate shock, pain, levels that should have rendered her unconscious. Instead, Arajin grabbed a tourniquet with her remaining hand, applied it to her own wound with practiced efficiency, and continued treating patients. For the next 4 hours, she performed surgery, administered medication, and coordinated medical evacuations using only one arm. "Impossible," whispered Vex, his multiple eyes wide with disbelief. The pain receptors alone should have shut down her nervous system. How is she still functioning? The hologram showed Ara's brain activity during the incident. Instead of the chaotic patterns they expected from trauma, her neural pathways showed increased focus and determination. The injury hadn't broken her. It had somehow made her more resolved to save others. "Pull up Captain Hyuk Choi's combat record from the Outer Rim engagement," Dr. Kethvar commanded. The display shifted to show a small human patrol ship surrounded by 6 Void Walker attack drones. The mechanical entities were perfect killing machines, their quantum processors calculating optimal strike patterns in nanoseconds. The battle should have lasted minutes. Instead, it stretched on for hours as Captain Choi turned his tiny vessel into a nightmare for the attacking machines. His ship took hit after hit, systems failing one by one, but he never stopped fighting back. "Look at these." "Medical readings," Vex said, highlighting the captain's vital signs. Massive blood loss from shrapnel wounds, collapsed lung from pressure changes, internal bleeding that should have killed him twice over. The thermal imaging showed Captain Choi slumped over his control station, his life signs fading rapidly. By every medical standard in the Galactic database, he should have been dead or unconscious. Instead, he was still piloting his ship with deadly accuracy, using debris from his own damaged vessel as improvised weapons against the drones. His tactical decisions actually improved as his physical condition deteriorated, Dr. Kethvar observed, studying the battle data. "Look at this pattern. Every time he took significant damage, his combat effectiveness increased. It's as if pain and injury were making him think more clearly, not less." The footage showed the final moments of the battle. Captain Choi's ship was barely holding together, life support failing, hull breached in dozens of places. With his last conscious act, he rammed his dying vessel into the lead Void Walker, destroying both ships in a massive explosion that disabled the remaining drones. He had escape pods, Vex noted, checking the ship's specifications. He could have ejected safely at any point during the battle. "But he didn't," Dr. Kethvar replied, her scientific mind racing to process what she was seeing. He chose to stay and fight until his ship was literally falling apart around him. She began pulling up more battle records, each one showing the same impossible pattern. Humans facing overwhelming odds, sustaining injuries that should have ended the fight, yet somehow continuing to resist with increasing desperation and effectiveness. "Look at this engagement from the Kepler system," she said, displaying footage of a human cargo hauler being attacked by pirates. The crew had no military training, no combat experience, yet they turned their industrial equipment into weapons with terrifying creativity. Maintenance worker Jin Seo used a plasma cutter to slice through the pirates' boarding equipment. Chef Nario turned the ship's food synthesizers into chemical weapons. Captain Day Moon coordinated the defense while manually piloting the ship and treating his own wounds from a previous attack. "They're not following standard military doctrine," Dr. Kethvar observed. "They're improvising solutions in real time, using equipment in ways it was never designed for. Most species need years of training to achieve this level of tactical flexibility." The holographic displays showed dozens of similar incidents, humans turning mining lasers into ship-killing weapons, using cargo containers as mobile fortresses, converting medical equipment into electronic warfare tools. Their creativity under pressure seemed limitless. "Their psychology is completely different from ours," Dr. Kethvar concluded, studying brain scan comparisons between humans and other species during combat situations. "We fight to achieve victory through superior tactics and technology. They fight to survive by any means necessary. When winning becomes impossible, they don't surrender, they adapt." The implications were staggering. Every military force in the galaxy was built around the concept of defeating an enemy through overwhelming superiority. But how do you defeat an enemy that refuses to be defeated? Dr. Kethvar adjusted the cloaking field around her research vessel as it drifted silently through the asteroid belt. 3 months of studying battle records had given her theories, but she needed to see human combat behavior with her own eyes. The plan was simple: stage a controlled pirate attack and observe how humans reacted under genuine threat. "Remember, this needs to look completely real," she told her team of disguised researchers. "The moment they suspect this is artificial, the experiment becomes worthless." The merchant vessel, Golden Dawn, appeared on their sensors right on schedule. The small cargo hauler was making a routine supply run to the outer colonies, its crew of 5 completely unaware they were about to become test subjects. Captain Day Park had an excellent service record, experienced, level-headed, and known for getting his shipments through dangerous territory. "Perfect," Dr. Kethvar murmured, watching the human ship's leisurely approach. "Begin the attack sequence." Her research vessel, disguised as a pirate raider, dropped its cloaking field and powered up weapon systems. The Golden Dawn's sensors immediately detected the threat, and emergency alarms began blaring across both ships. "Merchant vessel, this is Captain Vorthak of the Crimson Raiders," Dr. Kethvar announced over the communication channel, using her best imitation of a notorious pirate leader. "Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Comply immediately or face destruction." The response came faster than expected. Instead of the usual fear-filled plea for mercy, Captain Day Park's voice crackled back with surprising calmness. "Unknown. Vessel, this is a legitimate merchant ship carrying medical supplies to colony worlds. Stand down immediately." Dr. Kethvar smiled at her assistant. This was already interesting. Most species would have immediately begun surrender negotiations or attempted to flee. Captain Park was actually trying to deter them. "Fire warning shots. Across their bow," she ordered. Her research team, playing their roles perfectly, launched low-powered plasma bolts that streaked past the merchant ship's hull. The Golden Dawn shuddered as the energy passed close enough to overload some external sensors. "This is your final warning," Dr. Kethvar transmitted. "Surrender now or we will disable your ship and take what we want from the wreckage." The response was immediate and completely unexpected. "All hands battle stations," Captain Park announced over his ship's intercom. "They want a fight. Let's give them one they'll never forget." Dr. Kethvar's tentacles twitched with excitement. Instead of negotiating or attempting to escape, the humans were actually preparing to fight back against a larger, better-armed vessel. This defied every logical combat doctrine in the galactic database. "Disable their main engines," she ordered, wanting to see how humans reacted when their situation became truly hopeless. Precisely aimed shots struck the Golden Dawn's propulsion systems, leaving the merchant ship dead in space with no possibility of escape. Inside the cargo hauler, chaos erupted as systems failed, and emergency lighting bathed everything in red. Through hidden sensors planted throughout the ship, Dr. Kethvar watched the crew's response with fascination. "Engineering damage report," Captain Park called out, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead where falling debris had struck him. "Main engines are completely fried," Engineer Unisong replied, her hands already flying over diagnostic panels. "But I've got an idea. Give me 10 minutes with the food processors." Dr. Kethvar leaned forward in her observation chair. Food processors? What could a human possibly do with kitchen equipment in a combat situation? The answer came quickly. Unisong began tearing apart the ship's meal preparation systems, pulling out power converters and electromagnetic field generators. With tools, meant for equipment maintenance, she started connecting components in ways that definitely weren't in any manufacturer's manual. "I'm turning these into EMP pulse generators," she explained to her captain, while sparks flew from her improvised circuitry. "They won't have much range, but if those pirates get close enough to board us, we can fry every electronic system they're carrying." Meanwhile, navigator Jin Seo was performing his own impossible modifications. He had shut down life support to non-essential areas and was rerouting all that power into the ship's sensor array. "The navigation scanner wasn't designed for this kind of power load," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked. But if I can overload the emitters just right, it should create a focused electromagnetic beam. Won't punch through their hull, but it might scramble their targeting systems. Dr. Kethvar watched in amazement as these untrained civilians transformed their peaceful merchant vessel into an improvised warship. They were using equipment in ways that violated every safety protocol, yet somehow making it work through pure determination and creativity. "Begin boarding procedures," she ordered her team, curious to see how humans would respond to armed intruders. The disguised researchers launched a small assault craft toward the Golden Dawn's docking bay. As they approached, Captain Park was giving final instructions to his crew when a piece of damaged hull plating suddenly broke free and struck him in the chest, sending him crashing to the deck unconscious. Dr. Kethvar expected panic, confusion, maybe arguments about who should take command. Instead, pilot Leah Moon simply stepped forward and continued the captain's briefing without missing a beat. "Boarding party will dock in 30 seconds, she announced calmly. "Yuna, are those EMP devices ready? Jin, I need that sensor weapon online now. We're going to show these pirates what happens when you mess with the wrong cargo hauler." The boarding craft attached to the Golden Dawn's airlock with a metallic clang. Dr. Kethvar's researchers, armed with training weapons that could deliver painful but non-lethal shocks, prepared to storm the ship. According to every military simulation, the humans should surrender immediately when faced with superior numbers and firepower. Instead, the airlock door exploded outward in a shower of sparks as Unisong's improvised EMP device detonated. The electromagnetic pulse fried every piece of electronic equipment the boarding party carried, leaving them stumbling blind through smoke-filled corridors. "Now!" Leah Moon shouted, and the human crew attacked with weapons that shouldn't have existed. Jin Seo had turned a gravity manipulation tool into a disruptor that sent the disguised researchers tumbling helplessly through the air. Cook Hana Kang emerged from the galley, wielding a plasma cutter like a sword, while Maintenance Chief Minho Bai used magnetic clamps to literally stick attacking boarders to the bulkheads. Dr. Kethvar watched her trained researchers, specialists in combat simulation and tactical warfare, being systematically defeated by a crew of merchant sailors using kitchen utensils and repair tools. The humans moved with desperate efficiency, covering each other's weaknesses and adapting their tactics in real time. "They're not following any established combat doctrine," she whispered to her assistant. "There's no formal command structure, no predetermined battle plan. They're just making it up as they go along, and it's working." The final blow came when Captain Park regained consciousness and rejoined the fight. Despite his injuries, he coordinated a counterattack that drove the remaining boarders back to their assault craft. As the researchers retreated, Jin Seo fired his improvised sensor weapon, scrambling their navigation systems and forcing them to drift helplessly until Dr. Kethvar's main ship could retrieve them. "Experiment terminated," Dr. Kethvar announced, dropping the pirate disguise and revealing her research vessel. "This is Dr. Kethvar of the Atlantean Scientific Institute. We apologize for the deception, but we needed to observe genuine human combat behavior." The response from the Golden Dawn was immediate and angry. "You what?" Captain Park's voice crackled with fury. "You attacked us for a research project?" "We will provide full compensation for damages and medical treatment," Dr. Kethvar replied quickly. "Your actions today have provided invaluable data for galactic security." As her ship moved to assist the damaged merchant vessel, Dr. Kethvar reviewed the sensor data with growing amazement. The humans had transformed a helpless cargo hauler into an effective fighting vessel in less than 15 minutes, using nothing but standard civilian equipment and pure determination. They hadn't won through superior technology or overwhelming force. They had won by refusing to accept defeat, adapting to impossible circumstances, and fighting with a creativity that no military simulation could predict. The implications were terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Dr. Kethvar stared at the massive holographic display that filled her entire laboratory. 3 months of data analysis had consumed her every waking moment, and now the pieces were finally falling into place. The answer to humanity's impossible survival record wasn't hidden in their weapons technology or military tactics. It was written in their DNA. "Computer, display Earth's evolutionary timeline," she commanded, her webbed fingers trembling with excitement. The hologram shifted to show a blue-green planet spinning slowly in space, its surface covered with vast oceans and strange continents. "Focus on the period 2 million years ago," she instructed. The display zoomed in to show primitive landscapes filled with dangerous predators. Massive creatures with razor-sharp teeth stalked through dense forests, while flying beasts circled overhead like living nightmares. "Look at this," Dr. Kethver called to her research team. Earth wasn't just any planet, it was a death world. Every ecosystem was designed to kill. Research assistant Vex studied the data with his multiple eyes wide in amazement. The atmospheric composition alone should have been lethal to most life forms. High oxygen content creating massive fires, unstable weather patterns, tectonic activity that could split continents. The hologram showed Earth's early human ancestors, small, relatively, weak creatures surrounded by predators that could crush them without effort. Saber-toothed cats the size of modern spacecraft, bears that stood 4 meters tall, pack hunters with intelligence that rivaled most galactic species. "Here's where it gets interesting," Dr. Kethvar said, highlighting a group of early humans, tracking a massive animal across endless grasslands. "Watch how they hunt." The display showed something that defied every hunting strategy in the galactic database. The humans weren't using overwhelming force or superior speed. They weren't setting elaborate traps or using advanced weapons. They were simply following their prey, hour after hour, day after day, never stopping. "They're not trying to kill it immediately," Vex observed, his tentacles curling with confusion. "They're just following it." "Exactly," Dr. Kethvar replied, her excitement growing. While other species on Earth developed as either apex predators with overwhelming physical advantages or prey animals with superior escape mechanisms, humans evolved as something completely different. The hologram showed the hunt continuing for days. The massive prey animal would run until exhausted, then rest. The humans would catch up, forcing it to run again. Over and over, never giving their target a moment's peace. "Persistence hunting," Dr. Kethvar explained. "They evolved to never give up. Their entire survival strategy was based on outlasting everything else on their planet." She pulled up comparative biological data between humans and other galactic species. The differences were staggering. Humans had enlarged hearts that could pump blood efficiently for hours, advanced cooling systems that prevented overheating during extended activity, and muscle fibers designed for endurance rather than explosive power. "Look at their brain chemistry," she said, highlighting neural pathway diagrams. "When humans face extreme stress or injury, their bodies produce chemicals that actually increase focus and pain tolerance. Other species go into shock or retreat. Humans get more determined." The research team watched in fascination as Dr. Kethvar displayed brain scans from various combat situations. Human soldiers showed increased activity in regions associated with problem-solving and determination when facing hopeless odds, while most other species showed panic responses. "Private Kang Huan's mission on Epsilon Station demonstrates this perfectly," Dr. Kethvar said, bringing up a detailed mission report. The hologram showed a young human soldier crawling through the twisted wreckage of a destroyed military base, both legs shattered by enemy fire. "Medical scans show massive trauma," she continued. "Compound fractures, severe blood loss, internal injuries that should have killed him within minutes. Any rational being would have stayed put and waited for rescue. Instead, the display showed Kang Huan dragging himself 3 kilometers through hostile territory, using nothing but his arms and sheer willpower. Enemy patrols passed within meters of his position multiple times, but he remained silent and kept moving toward his objective. He delivered critical intelligence about enemy troop movements that saved 12,000 civilian lives," Dr. Kethvar noted. When rescue teams found him 18 hours later, he was still conscious and giving tactical reports. She switched to another case file. Lieutenant Nario's defense of Outpost 7 shows the same pattern. Surrounded by enemy forces with no hope of reinforcement, she held her position for 18 hours against overwhelming odds. The battle footage was extraordinary. Lieutenant O's defensive position was nothing more than a damaged supply bunker, yet she turned it into an impregnable fortress, using improvised weapons and tactical creativity. When her ammunition ran out, she used broken equipment as projectiles. When her communications were cut, she continued fighting without orders. She eliminated over 200 enemy soldiers before reinforcements arrived, Dr. Kethvar said. The attacking force eventually stopped trying to overrun her position because their casualties were too high. The most dramatic example was Commander Shinwoo's final mission during the Battle of Titan Prime. His fighter squadron had been destroyed, his ship was critically damaged, and he faced an entire enemy dreadnought alone. Any logical military decision would have been to retreat and regroup, Dr. Kethvar explained, showing the tactical situation. Commander Shin's fighter had no weapons left, no shields, and was losing atmosphere rapidly. The display showed what happened next. Instead of fleeing, Commander Shin deliberately crashed his dying fighter into the enemy dreadnought's main reactor. The explosion destroyed both ships, but also created a gap in the enemy formation that allowed human reinforcements to break through and win the battle. He turned certain death into strategic victory, Dr. Kethvar observed. This isn't courage or heroism in the traditional sense. This is hardwired survival programming that makes retreat literally impossible for humans. She pulled up genetic comparisons between humans and other species. The differences were clear in every strand of DNA. Where most galactic species had evolved fear responses designed to preserve individual life, humans had evolved persistence responses designed to achieve objectives regardless of personal cost. Their entire species is built around one concept, Dr. Kethvar explained to her assembled team. Never give up. Not when injured, not when outnumbered, not when facing impossible odds. It's not a choice they make. It's who they are at the most. Fundamental level. The implications were staggering. Every military force in the galaxy was designed to achieve victory through superior technology, tactics, or numbers. But humans didn't fight to win battles. They fought to survive as a species, and there was a crucial difference. When victory becomes impossible, most species surrender or retreat. Dr. Kethvar continued. Humans escalate. They make the enemy pay such a high price that future attacks become unthinkable. She displayed casualty reports from various human conflicts. Even in their defeats, human forces inflicted disproportionate losses on their enemies. Species that conquered human colonies often found the victory so costly that they abandoned further expansion into human territory. When death becomes inevitable, they fight to ensure their sacrifice serves a purpose, Dr. Kethvar concluded. Every human death is designed to make the next human's survival more likely. The research team sat in stunned silence as the full implications sank in. Humans weren't just another spacefaring species with advanced technology. They were the end result of millions of years of evolution on a planet that had tried every possible way to kill them, and they had survived it all by never, ever giving up. So what does this mean for the galaxy? Asked Vex quietly. Dr. Kethvar looked at the swirling display of battle data and genetic analysis. It means we need to ensure humanity never sees us as a threat to their survival. Because if they do, there's no force in the universe that can stop them. The hologram flickered and died, leaving the laboratory in darkness except for the distant stars visible through the viewport. In that silence, every member of the research team understood why humans always survived. They literally couldn't do anything else. The Grand Council chamber fell completely silent as Dr. Kethvar's final words echoed through the massive crystalline dome. Representatives from 47 different species sat motionless in their seats, processing information that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare and survival. Admiral Threx of the Titan Collective was the first to break the silence. His metallic voice carried a tremor that had never been there during centuries of military service. You're telling us that humans are literally incapable of surrender? Dr. Kethvar's tentacles moved in what her species considered a gesture of careful correction. Not incapable, Admiral. Unwilling. There's a crucial difference. She activated the holographic display one final time, showing the evolutionary timeline that had consumed months of her research. Their species survived on a death world by never accepting defeat, even against superior predators. environmental disasters, or impossible odds. What we've been calling irrational behavior is actually millions of years of evolutionary programming. The display showed Earth's timeline: ice ages that should have destroyed all life, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years, asteroid impacts that reset entire ecosystems. Through it all, early humans had survived by adapting, persisting, and refusing to give up. Every setback made them more resourceful, Dr. Kethvar continued, her voice gaining strength as she explained her findings. Every loss taught them new tactics. Every survival made them harder to kill. They don't just endure hardship, they learn from it and become stronger. Council member Vorthak of the Crystal Singers leaned forward, his harmonic voice creating subtle music as he spoke. But surely there must be limits to this persistence. Every species has a breaking point. Dr. Kethvar shook her head. That's what we all assumed. That's why we all failed. She brought up battle footage that made several council members recoil in their seats. Captain Luna Ko's final stand aboard the destroyer, Defiant, showed something. That defied every military manual in the Galactic database. Her entire crew was dead, Dr. Kethvar narrated, as the hologram showed the human captain moving through smoke-filled corridors littered with bodies. Life support was failing. The ship was breaking apart, and enemy boarders controlled 90% of the vessel. The footage showed Captain Ko systematically hunting enemy soldiers through her dying ship, using improvised weapons and traps made from destroyed equipment. She had converted the ship's medical bay into an ambush point, turned the galley into a weapons factory, and transformed maintenance tunnels into a deadly maze. She fought alone for 14 hours, Dr. Kethvar said quietly. When they finally cornered her on the bridge, she had eliminated over 300 enemy soldiers. Her final act was to trigger the ship's self-destruct rather than allow capture. Admiral Threx's mechanical body shuddered as he processed this information. His own species had developed advanced artificial intelligence specifically to eliminate emotional decision-making from warfare. The idea of fighting alone against impossible odds was completely alien to their tactical programming. "Show them Sergeant Hyunbei's mission," requested Commander Telvac, his scaled features grim with understanding. The hologram shifted to show the Kepler Station incident. Sergeant Bei had been tasked with destroying an enemy ammunition depot, but the mission had gone wrong from the start. His entire team was killed in the initial assault, leaving him alone deep inside enemy territory. He had multiple opportunities to retreat, Dr. Kethvar explained, as the display tracked Bei's movement through the enemy base. His commanders actually ordered him to abort the mission and extract to safety. Instead, the footage showed Sergeant Bei pressing deeper into the enemy facility, using stealth and improvised explosives to work his way toward the ammunition depot. When he finally reached his target, enemy forces had surrounded his position. He detonated the explosives while still inside the blast radius, Dr. Kethvar said simply. The explosion destroyed the entire enemy base and eliminated their ability to resupply their forces in that sector. The council chamber erupted in whispered conversations as representatives tried to process what they were seeing. The Kashma. Lords communicated through bursts of superheated gas, while the shadow dancers phased in and out of visibility as they discussed the implications among themselves. "There's more," Dr. Kethvar continued, bringing up another file that made several council members physically retreat from their viewing positions. Engineer June Ma's sacrifice during the Battle of Proxima Station was perhaps the most extreme example of human persistence programming. When enemy forces captured the station's main reactor, they had a choice: surrender the facility or watch it be turned into a weapon that could destroy nearby colonies. Engineer Ma volunteered for a suicide mission, Dr. Kethvar explained, as the hologram showed a lone human figure moving through heavily guarded corridors. He fought his way to the reactor core, knowing there was no possibility of survival. The footage showed Junma's final moments as he manually overloaded the reactor's safety systems while enemy soldiers poured into the chamber. His last transmission was a simple message: "Tell my family the colonies are safe." The reactor explosion destroyed the entire station and eliminated the enemy fleet, Dr. Kethvar concluded. 10 million civilian lives were saved by one human's refusal to accept defeat. The council chamber had grown completely quiet again. Even the void speakers, who communicated through controlled gravity waves, had stopped their constant background chatter. Council Chairman Nexus, an ancient being who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, spoke for the first time in the session. His voice carried the weight of millennia. "What are you recommending, Dr. Kethvar?" "The recommendation is simple," she replied, her scientific objectivity giving way to something approaching fear. "Never give humanity a reason to see you as an enemy. Some wars cannot be won because some species cannot be broken." She gestured to the battle data floating around them. "Every military force in this chamber is designed to achieve victory through superior technology, tactics, or numbers. Humans don't fight to win battles. They fight to ensure their species survives. When you threaten their survival, they become something that no force in the universe can stop." Admiral Threx processed this information through his quantum neural networks. "You're suggesting we avoid conflict with humans entirely?" "I'm suggesting we ensure they never see us as a threat," Dr. Kethvar corrected. "Because if they do, every engagement will be like the ones we've studied today. They'll keep fighting, keep adapting, keep making us pay such a high price that victory becomes meaningless." Commander Telvac understood now. The pattern wasn't about human technology or superior tactics. It was about a species that had been forged in the fires of a death world, programmed by millions of years of evolution to never give up, never surrender, never accept defeat. "All in favor of offering humanity full membership in the Galactic Council?" Chairman Nexus called for the vote. The response was immediate and unanimous. 47 different species, many of whom had been enemies for centuries, agreed on something for the first time in galactic history. "Motion passed," Chairman Nexus announced. "Humanity will be granted full membership, with all protections and benefits therein. They will be offered positions on the Council Defense Force and invited to participate in all galactic peacekeeping operations." As the council session ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, Dr. Kethvar remained behind, staring at the holographic data that had consumed months of her life. "What happens now?" asked Research Assistant Vex. Dr. Kethvar smiled, an expression that looked strange on her alien features. "Now we hope they never find out that we spent months studying how to fight them, because if they ever see that as a threat—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood now why humans always survived. 3 days later, the human ambassador to the Galactic Council received an official invitation to join as full members. The offer came with advanced technology sharing, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts that would have taken decades to negotiate under normal circumstances. Captain Yuki Chen, the human representative, was puzzled by the sudden generosity, but accepted graciously. She had no idea that humanity's reputation for persistence had just made them the galaxy's most feared and respected species. The galaxy's newest members didn't know they had just become its most powerful protectors simply by being exactly what millions of years of evolution had made them, survivors who never give up. The end.